You're in a conversation with someone who can't grasp what you're saying, not because your explanation is unclear, but because they fundamentally lack the capacity to understand. You simplify. You use analogies. You try different approaches. They nod. They agree. They seem engaged. But moments later, they've completely missed the point. Or maybe you've watched someone repeat the same obvious mistake over and over. Ignore clear evidence. Reject sound reasoning. Choose feeling over logic every single time. And you think, how is this even possible? Here's what Arthur Schopenhauer understood about human intelligence. Most people operate at a level far below what you've been taught to expect, not because they're malicious, but because they're fundamentally limited in their cognitive capacity. And the moment you accept this reality, you stop suffering from the gap between your expectations and their limitations. Schopenhauer spent decades observing human stupidity in all its forms, and he documented what he found with brutal honesty. No comforting platitudes, no polite softening, no pretending everyone can think critically if they just try harder. Just the uncomfortable truth about intelligence and its rarity. Today I'm going to share Schopenhauer's philosophy for dealing with people who can't think at your level, not to make you arrogant, but to give you a map for navigating a world where real intelligence is far scarcer than you've been led to believe. Because once you internalize these insights, everything shifts. You stop feeling frustrated, stop feeling disappointed, stop wasting energy on interactions that were never going to work, and you start operating with the clarity that comes from seeing reality without illusion. Let's begin. Schopenhauer observed, the majority of men are not capable of thinking, but only of believing, and are not accessible to reason, but only to authority. This is where everything starts. Most people don't actually think. They memorize, they repeat, they recite what they've absorbed. You present logic. They respond with slogans. You offer evidence. They counter with emotion. You use reason. They appeal to what everyone knows. They're not engaging with your argument. They're defending pre-installed beliefs they've never questioned. Schopenhauer understood that when you're dealing with people who cannot think, you're not having an intellectual exchange. You're watching them defend programming they didn't choose and can't examine. The intelligent person's first move: stop expecting thought, expect repetition, and reserve your actual reasoning for the rare individuals capable of engaging with it. Schopenhauer wrote, "The common man is not capable of thought, but only of belief." You've been conditioned to believe intelligence is common, that most people are reasonably smart if given the right circumstances. This is a soothing fiction. The reality, Schopenhauer observed, most people function at a cognitive level barely above instinct. They respond to triggers, follow crowds, repeat patterns without understanding why. Real intelligence, the capacity for abstract thinking, logical analysis, intellectual honesty, is extraordinarily rare. Perhaps 5% of the population, maybe less. Watch how people decide, not through analysis, but through emotion and social pressure. Watch how they form beliefs, not through investigation, but through tribal identification. Watch how they debate, not to discover truth, but to defend their side. This is normal. Intelligence is the anomaly. And Schopenhauer's philosophy demands you calibrate your expectations to this reality. You're not surrounded by dormant intellectuals waiting to be awakened. You're surrounded by biological systems running on default programming. The intelligent person adjusts accordingly. Schopenhauer noted, "A man can surely do what he wills, but he cannot determine what he wills." Here's what will save you years of frustration. Some people cannot understand you. Not won't. Cannot. Their cognitive architecture doesn't support the level of abstraction you're using. You're explaining calculus to someone who struggles with basic arithmetic. You're discussing philosophy with someone whose thinking never goes deeper than surface-level reactions. You're presenting nuanced positions to someone who only processes binary options. The gap isn't bridgeable through better explanation. The capacity simply isn't there. Schopenhauer's insight here is liberating. You're not failing when someone doesn't understand you. You're simply encountering the limits of their architecture. The intelligent person stops trying to build bridges across unbridgeable gaps. They give people what those people can actually receive, then move on. Schopenhauer observed, "Against stupidity, the gods themselves contend in vain." Here's something you've definitely noticed. People with limited intelligence are often extremely confident, aggressively confident. They don't doubt themselves, don't question their positions, don't consider they might be mistaken. Because doubt requires intelligence, requires imagining alternative perspectives, requires recognizing your own limitations. People without this capacity can't experience genuine doubt. So they're certain, absolutely certain, about everything. You present contradicting facts, they reject them with confidence. You demonstrate logical errors, they dismiss them with confidence. You prove them wrong, they double down with confidence. Modern psychology calls this the Dunning-Kruger effect. The less competent someone is, the more competent they believe themselves to be. Schopenhauer understood this centuries before it had a name. His philosophy offers a clear directive. Don't engage with aggressive ignorance. You cannot win. Confidence built on incomprehension is impenetrable to reason. The intelligent person recognizes the futility and withdraws. Schopenhauer wrote, "Intellect is invisible to the man who has none." Watch how most people form opinions. They don't gather information, analyze it, then reach conclusions. They feel something, then find reasoning to justify what they already feel. Fear shapes their politics. Anger shapes their judgments. Insecurity shapes their critiques. The emotion comes first. The reasoning is reverse engineered to support it. You present logical arguments against their position. They reject the logic because the underlying emotion hasn't changed. You can't logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. Schopenhauer's philosophy cuts through the illusion. Most of what people call thinking is actually emotional reasoning dressed in rational-sounding language. The intelligent person recognizes this, understands they're not arguing against thoughts, but against feelings. And feelings don't respond to logic. So the intelligent person stops arguing entirely. Schopenhauer understood something profound. The person lacking intelligence cannot recognize they lack it, because recognizing limitation requires the very capacity they're missing. Similarly, they cannot recognize superior intelligence in others. Your insights seem like nonsense to them. Your depth seems like overcomplication. Your nuance seems like confusion, because they don't have the framework to recognize thinking above their level. If you really understood it, you could explain it simply. This phrase, weaponized by the intellectually limited, blames the intelligent person for the listener's incomprehension. Sometimes complexity is irreducible. Sometimes simplification destroys essential truth. Sometimes the limitation is in the receiver, not the transmitter. Schopenhauer's philosophy here is about letting go of a particular suffering, the need for validation from those who cannot recognize value. The intelligent person stops seeking approval from people incapable of rendering accurate judgment. Their incomprehension becomes irrelevant. And now here's where things get really interesting. Because everything I've shared so far is defensive. It's about protecting yourself from the exhaustion of dealing with limited thinking. But Schopenhauer went deeper. He didn't just teach how to avoid suffering from stupidity. He taught how to use this understanding strategically, how to operate in a world dominated by limited intelligence without becoming bitter, isolated, or ineffective. Let me show you how. Schopenhauer wrote, "The cheapest sort of pride is national pride. An individual might have moments of clarity, of rational thought, Put that same person in a group and something changes. Intelligence decreases, reasoning simplifies, independent thought evaporates. Group dynamics reward conformity, not thinking. Emotional resonance, not logic. Tribal belonging, not truth. Crowds are always intellectually inferior. Always. Because limitation is contagious and intelligence is not. Watch what happens at rallies, protests, meetings where everyone agrees. Individual nuance disappears. Complex positions become slogans. Thinking stops and chanting begins. Schopenhauer observed that humanity at scale becomes less than the sum of its parts. The intelligent person never expects rational discourse from groups. They engage people separately, one mind at a time, or not at all. Schopenhauer noted, all truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as self-evident. Limited intelligence isn't just about lack of capacity. It's about active resistance to reality. Most people don't want truth. They want comfort. Truth requires change, requires admitting error, requires facing uncomfortable realities. Comfortable lies provide instant relief. Everything happens for a reason. It'll work out. What's meant to be will be. None of these are true, but they're soothing. And soothing defeats truth for most people every time. Schopenhauer understood that most people are truth-averse by nature. They'll choose the pleasant lie over the difficult reality almost every time. The intelligent person stops offering truth to people who don't want it. They understand that unwanted truth creates resentment, not gratitude. They save their honesty for those rare individuals who actually value it. Schopenhauer warned, it would be an utterly vain task to try to extract any meaning from such a mass of words. Here's what happens when you engage the intellectually limited in debate. You descend to their level. You start using their framing, their vocabulary, their emotional reasoning. The longer the interaction, the more you compromise. Simplify. Reduce nuance to sound bites they might grasp. And in that reduction, you lose the substance of your actual position. The limited thinker hasn't elevated. The intelligent person has descended. Schopenhauer's philosophy is protective here. Your intelligence is a resource. Guard it. The intelligent person simply refuses the interaction. They understand that some arguments aren't worth having because the cost is their own clarity. Schopenhauer observed, a man can do what he wants, but not want what he wants. People don't change minds through evidence. They change minds through identity transformation. And identity transformation is rare, traumatic, and never caused by someone presenting facts. Someone's core opinion is part of their self-concept. Asking them to change their mind is asking them to become someone else. They can't, won't, will resist with everything they have. Because changing the belief means admitting they were wrong, and admitting they were wrong means their entire self-understanding was false. That's unbearable. So they reject evidence instead. Schopenhauer's insight, people are what they are. Their fundamental nature, including their beliefs, is largely fixed. The intelligent person stops trying to change minds. They work with people as they are, not as they wish them to be. Schopenhauer wrote, every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. Intelligence has significant biological components. It has a ceiling, and most people are already near their ceiling. The intellectually limited person cannot be made sharp through better education, cannot be made thoughtful through better examples. They're operating at maximum capacity. This is it. Think about it practically. Have you ever successfully elevated someone's fundamental intelligence? Not taught them a skill, but actually increased their capacity for abstract thought, logical reasoning, intellectual honesty? No. because it's not possible. Schopenhauer's philosophy is brutally realistic. You cannot change people's fundamental cognitive capacity. The intelligent person stops trying to fix what cannot be fixed. They accept limitations as facts, not challenges to overcome. Schopenhauer wrote, "Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." Most people aren't making conscious decisions. They're executing programs, social conditioning, cultural scripts, biological drives. Watch how predictable people are. Same conversations, same reactions, same patterns. They're not varying because they're not thinking. They're running on default settings. Schopenhauer understood that free will is largely an illusion. We think we're choosing, but we're mostly rationalizing what we were always going to do. The intelligent person recognizes this and works to override their programming. The limited person doesn't even know the programming exists. So Schopenhauer's approach: stop expecting conscious deliberation from people who are essentially running on autopilot. The intelligent person adjusts their expectations and strategies accordingly. Schopenhauer understood, a man of genius can hardly be sociable, for what dialogues could indeed be so intelligent and entertaining as his own monologues? The more intelligent you are, the more isolated you'll be. Not because you're antisocial, but because compatible minds are statistically rare. Most conversations bore you. Most people can't follow your thinking. If intelligence is distributed normally and you're in the top 5%, then 95% of people cannot engage with you at your level. Schopenhauer lived this reality. He chose solitude over the exhaustion of constant simplification. His philosophy doesn't offer a solution to this isolation. It offers acceptance of it. Intelligence creates distance. The more clearly you see, the fewer people can see with you. The intelligent person stops trying to force connection with people who cannot meet them where they are. This isn't loneliness, it's alignment with reality. Schopenhauer noted, talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. And here's what happens when you hit targets nobody else can see. They resent you for it. Your intelligence threatens them, makes them feel inadequate. So they attack it. Call you pretentious, arrogant, too smart for your own good. Because your ability makes their limitation visible. And they hate that mirror. So his philosophy offers a protective strategy. Conceal your intelligence around the intellectually limited. Not because you should feel shame, but because displaying it invites hostility you don't need. The intelligent person learns to operate with strategic discretion, full clarity with the few who can handle it, selective simplicity with everyone else. But here's where Schopenhauer's philosophy becomes truly powerful. Everything I've shared so far protects you from suffering. But now I want to show you how this understanding gives you an actual advantage. Because while everyone else is exhausting themselves trying to reason with the unreasonable, you'll be operating with surgical precision. Schopenhauer wrote, "The wise have always said the same things, and fools, who are the majority, have always done just the opposite. And in that majority lies your opportunity. When you accept that most people cannot think critically, you stop being surprised by their decisions. You start predicting them. You anticipate how they'll react to emotion versus logic. You know which arguments will work and which will fail before you even speak. You understand that they'll follow confidence over competence, comfort over truth, tribal belonging over individual thought. And this predictability is your edge. While they're reactive, you're strategic. While they're emotional, you're calculated. While they're running on autopilot, you're operating with full consciousness. Think about it. Every major historical figure who shaped the world understood this. They didn't waste time trying to convince everyone. They identified the small percentage capable of understanding, convinced them, and let that influence cascade down through authority and social proof. Because Schopenhauer knew something crucial. You don't need to convince the majority. You just need to position yourself correctly within the system they've created. The majority will follow whoever holds authority, whoever displays confidence, whoever their tribe endorses. So the intelligent person doesn't fight the majority. They work around them. They build relationships with the rare few who can actually think. They speak the language of emotion and simplicity to those who require it, reserving depth for those who can handle it. They move through the world without friction because they've accepted how the world actually works. This isn't manipulation, it's efficiency. It's recognizing that you can either spend your life frustrated that people won't think, or you can accept it and operate within reality as it exists. One path leads to exhaustion, the other leads to effectiveness. Schopenhauer chose effectiveness, and he never apologized for it. So here's your choice. Continue expecting people to rise to your level and suffer constant disappointment, or accept their limitations, adjust your approach, and finally start making progress in a world that operates on emotion, not logic. The philosophy isn't about giving up. It's about winning differently. Schopenhauer's ultimate insight: the wise have always said the same things, and fools, who are the majority, have always done just the opposite. Here's the truth that brings peace. Most people are intellectually limited. This will never change. You cannot fix it, cannot alter it, cannot improve it. You can only accept it. And in that acceptance, you find freedom. Freedom from frustration, from disappointment, from wasted effort. You stop expecting people to understand. Stop trying to make them think. Stop hoping for reason where none exists. You see limitation clearly, accept it as part of the landscape, and navigate accordingly, not with cruelty, not with contempt, just with clarity. Schopenhauer spent his life studying human nature without illusion, and he found peace not by changing humanity, but by accepting it as it is. This is his philosophy in essence. See reality clearly. Accept what cannot be changed. Operate with precision within those constraints. Stop fighting the fundamental nature of human cognition. Instead, conserve your intelligence. Deploy it strategically, share it selectively. Reserve your depth for those rare individuals capable of meeting you there. And for everyone else, give them what they can actually receive, then move on without attachment or expectation. So here's what Schopenhauer would tell you. Stop fighting reality. Most people are intellectually limited. Accept it. Most people cannot think critically. Accept it. Most people will never understand you. Accept it. This acceptance isn't defeat, it's strategy. When you stop expecting intelligence where none exists, you stop suffering from its absence. When you stop trying to reason with the unreasonable, you preserve energy for worthy pursuits. You engage with reality as it is, not as you wish it were. You work with people at their actual level, not at some imagined potential, and you do all of this without bitterness, without superiority, without cruelty, just with clear sight. This isn't cynicism, it's precision. Schopenhauer saw reality without comforting distortion, and that clarity, however uncomfortable, brought him peace. Now you can see clearly too. And in that clarity, operate with the wisdom that comes from accepting what is, rather than suffering over what isn't. This is how intelligent people deal with those who cannot think at their level. Not by trying to fix them, not by exhausting themselves in futile effort, but by seeing clearly, accepting reality, and operating with strategic precision within the world as it actually exists.